In our last example today, we have two expressions with denominators. One of them is a binomial, one of them is a monomial, and they are not the same. So we still need to find our least common denominator first. And with this one, since the two denominators that are there have no factors in common, the least common denominator would be x times x minus 5. Now, once again, we do need to state what x is not allowed to be for this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and say that least common denominator is not equal to 0. Now, when I solve that one as if it were an equal sign in there, I would get that x is not allowed to be 0 or 5. So when I get my answers for this one, if I get 0 or 5 as an answer, then I will discard that as an extraneous solution. So now I'm going to multiply each of my terms in my original problem by that least common denominator. So my first term was just to 1, so x times x minus 5 times 1. Then I've got x times x minus 5 times that first fraction that appears there, 8 over x minus 5. And then equals x times x minus 5 times 3 over x. Now again, when you multiply by the least common denominator, the effect is going to be that all of the denominators are going to cancel out within the problem. The first term that I had there had no denominators, so there's nothing to cancel. So I'm just going to go ahead and perform this multiplication here. So I'll distribute the x. That would give me x squared minus 5x times 1 is just itself, of course. The second one, there was a denominator, so that denominator has to cancel out. That x minus 5 would cancel out with the x minus 5 over here. So that leaves me just an x times an 8, which of course is 8x. Then I come to my equal sign there, and now I'm on the right side of the equation. Again, the denominator on this one was x, so that's going to have to cancel out. It'll cancel with the x that was in the least common denominator there. And so that leaves me just x minus 5 times 3. And I'm going to go ahead and perform that multiplication. So 3x minus 5. All right, so for this one, my resulting equation is a quadratic equation. Oops, this is 3x minus 15. So this is a quadratic equation. So my strategy for solving quadratic equations is to get a 0 on one side, and then I'll try factoring first. And if factoring doesn't work, then I'll move on to one of the other techniques that we've learned. So to get a 0 on one side, I think I want my 0 on the right. I'm going to go ahead and combine these like terms here and also subtract 3x from both sides at the same time. So negative 5x minus 8x would be negative 13x. And then minus 3x would be negative 16x. Then I'll add 15 to both sides, so that would give me just plus 15 and equals 0. All right, now I'll try factoring. So let's see, I need things that'll multiply to make a positive 15 and add to make a negative 16. And a negative 15 times a negative 1 would do that for me. So I'm going to say x minus 15, x minus 1. And then I would set each of the factors equal to 0 and solve them. And so I would get x equals, for that first one, I would get x equals 15. And for the second one, I would get x equals 1. My pen got a little crazy there, so I'm going to try to fix it. I've got x equals 15 and x equals 1. All right, if I compare that now with what I had for my restricted values. Neither of the answers that I got are one of the restricted values. So both of them are good answers. This one actually has 2 answers to it. Now for good form, I'm going to list them in order from least to greatest. So I'm just going to change the order there and make it x equals 1, x equals 15. All right, now you try this last one over here and answer it on the Google form.